Welcome back to the One More K podcast. We are on episode number 22. Good morning, Ned Phillips from Singapore.
Good morning, Markus. I know we are 22 minutes in to the technical debacle of me trying to update Chrome. If you want to get technical advice, listen to a different podcast. We're only here for the running vibes.
We are here for the fun. We are here for the insights. We are here for the business trends. We are not tech people. We are runners and business people. So we are really now off a good start to this week's show. It's, of course, supported by Lekker Nutrition. That means not much right now, but we are supported by Lekker. And I just saw actually that Riverside, the platform we're using, is also allowing now live streaming. So in future, we could actually also live stream our podcast in case we have figured out the technology part of it, of course. But, maybe in the future, we have a fun little YouTube live stream for great events. I just want to put it out there, Ned. If you have any ideas, let me know.
Definitely ideas. And, podcasting, I think, was even 10 years ago thought about as a niche. 5 years ago, started to grow. Now podcasting, I feel, is becoming almost the de facto media, and I'm no surprise that it's going live stream. Yes, let's
I see quite a few memes now about if you're a white guy, you have an opinion, you have a podcast. And I was like, I feel a bit guilty there. Guilty as charged.
But Markus, and we hear that there's too many podcasts. And, there are, I don't know, 10 million, 100 million, I don't know. I'm sure I can ask Mr. Google. But the reality is, ask all of your friends. How many of your friends are doing a podcast?
Good question. I'm just going through my head. I would argue maybe close friends doing 0. And then the wider network. So a wider network being maybe 50 people. Maybe 1 or 2. Yeah. So it's still like a 2 or 3% basically.
Everybody says, there's too many podcasts. And then I ask all my friends, you're in a podcast? Like, no. So, yes, maybe we are, maybe we shouldn't, maybe there's too many people doing a podcast, but never feels like it's enough. Anyway.
Also true. And also a little side note again, in US right now, there's an important thing coming up called the election in November. And people are saying this election might be decided by podcasts. You have not anymore just the mainstream media who is covering the news. People are wondering what the news is about, and they get more and more information from the podcasts. And like Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss, all in podcasts are making really its waves into the election and deciding and forming opinions. Who knows what's
very, very much like I have had some healthy debates with my son. We're not going to go down the political road, but I listened to Robert Kennedy on Joe Rogan, and Robert Kennedy's got some interesting views. But the difference was, it was like, Joe goes long. It was like a 4-hour show. So it wasn't Joe just peppering with questions. It was almost like a platform. Robert Kennedy got a platform, and Joe clearly has a platform, and it was very long form. And that's the difference, right? They're not going to get long form. I can't imagine Trump doing long form. I don't think he has 4 hours of words, but still, let's not go there.
I don't think any of the right now 2 major candidates has 4 hours of words, whether it's Trump's vocabulary or Biden's attention. I'm not sure they would do 4 hours. But that's actually the question for you, though. Let's dig into it. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Both of us are entrepreneurs, and I think, what do you think makes our podcast unique? If you think about the product, what do you think about how do we stand out to the others? Let's go into it, Ned. Come on, give me the pitch.
Do it. So I have had some feedback from different people. There's 2 things that I think make us stand out in a plethora of running podcasts. Number 1 is the yin and the yang with me and you. We are dear friends, but we are different. I don't want to be cliched, but we are younger and older, faster and slower, German and not German, precision and not chaos. Quite a few people have mentioned to me that, if we were exactly the same, it wouldn't work. With the more thoughtful, intelligent approach, the structure you bring, and maybe some of the kind of a little more chaotic from my side, that's one. And the other side is that, exactly as you said, I don't know if we're the only. I know Dylan Bowman has launched his running business podcast, but you run a running business. And we think about business, and we always try to bring that together. So I would say it's the approach from the two of us, which of course is unique because there's only us two, and the business approach that we take would make us stand out. And you, Markus, what's your pitch?
I do think as well, the age, I mean, I don't know many other podcasts where different age groups come together in general, not just in running. I think that is one that is, I respect and really appreciate your experience in running and in life. And yeah, I do think that my maybe more younger part there can really bring it in perspective too. Secondly, it is, of course, our Asia focus, and that's good. I wonder then, however, as usual, my engineering brain, what can we do better? So, Ned, what do you think we can actually improve from what we do right now, apart from technology issues?
I was going to say, I could update Chrome before we started the podcast. I mean, that could be it. One thing, we've had some fantastic guests, but we should aim high as well. I think our podcast would grow, and I'm not saying just Kilian or Courtney, but we've had some fantastic guests. Let's really think deeply about more guests. So we've had some great guests. Let's get some other guests. I would also think that, we have our rhythm. I do my drop at the end. You always come together with like races and a business thing. I quite like our going deep on businesses. I think we could do even better. Because I don't think anyone else does that, Markus. I think you do a really good job. And considering you've invested, you've looked at businesses, why don't we go deeper on that? Like, let's really think about which businesses we would and wouldn't invest in. What is helping the trail community? So I think we could do better by going deeper on the business side, because our audience is intelligent, thoughtful, not all entrepreneurs, but everyone's interested in how businesses grow, I would say. So that's what I think we could do better.
Yeah, okay. Love it. I love that part. I mean, I love analyzing businesses, whether it's my own one, of course, 24/7, or it's others. I mean, the sports investment world is really moving fast. There's some amazing newsletters out there. Sports Tech X is one of them. Highly recommend it. And I think that big business and small business are really moving into it. I would love to see more entrepreneurs on the show, for sure. I think we would love to share more stories. I'm sure there are many others out there who are also building a business, from gear to nutrition to technology to data. We talked about live streaming before. Yeah, we should really aim for those as well. They might not be the best runners, but they're sure they have exciting stories to tell. And that's something I think we should definitely highlight more. How do people combine sports and business?
Yeah, maybe already to change my opinion of something I just said 1 minute ago. Of course, Kilian and Courtney would be great, but I really enjoyed Eugene, particularly the second time on the show. His passion, his journey to build that business. You said, let's get the founder of Koros or the founder of Goo or the founder of Lecker. Oh, damn, we already got that one. But yeah, I thought that was really an interesting part of getting more entrepreneurs. It doesn't, I'm sure Eugene is a good runner, but the story of building businesses, we're going to talk about, hey, what a nice lead in. We're going to talk about what we've learned from ultra and business. And running a business is an ultra, as both of us know.
Let's do it, Ned. I'm actually excited about that. Let's. It's good to do it. And anyone out there listening, of course, please reach out to us and give us your input. If you know anyone that wants to come on the show, please let us know. This is not just two white guys talking to each other. This is really also a community out there we want to build with you. And there are actually many more ideas that we have. But yeah, please talk to us and give us your feedback. We are very reachable online and even offline. If you find Ned on one of the Singapore races, easily to be found. the Ned guy in his rabbit shirt running around, it's very clear that it's you. It's your biggest rabbit ambassador. Wonderful. Yeah. So the next few weeks, we have more guests coming up. I can only tell you we have, of course, some business leaders and people who've been on television even, who are going to join us. So quite excited about that. And I am promising, do more digs into the business front as well. I am so excited about analyzing businesses there for sure. But in the meantime, let's dig into some of the news that happened over the weekend. We had the very famous race down in South Africa, the oldest ultramarathon in the world, Comrades. This time it was the up route, which means 89 kilometers from Durban, from the Indian Ocean, into the hills of KwaZulu-Natal in Pietermaritzburg. Exciting. I'm going to share quickly my screen. We had, of course, a super crazy race. 2 winners. Guess we had a female winner and a male winner, of course. It was an exciting race where Gerda Steen, who is of South Africa but lives in UAE, she won it again in a record time. And then the Dutchman Piet Wiersma won it this time. He came second last time. Just want to really put one thing out there, just because I have it on my screen right now. The prize purse was $217,000, so a significant amount of money on the line for the winners here. Anyway, so that's, I think, is always worth noting, given that other races, as we know, don't pay even a dime. Ned, what did you make out of this Comrades race? How did you follow it?
I mean, the Comrades race, I have a lot of passion. So I have never done it. I have been in South Africa when it was going. And one of my dearest friends, Mr. Rob Hart, me and you, pal, we promised to run it one day. So I am promised to run this with my dearest friend, who I have done a huge amount of running with, a guy called Rob Hart. He is from South Africa, lives back there. We've done a huge amount of trails together. And we had a running team called the Dassies. The Dassie is a South African rock rabbit that bounces around and would be seen as you're running the Comrades. The Comrades is, so I've thought about it a lot. It has so many traditions. Started in 1920 something to commemorate the veterans of some war. I don't know which one. It's gone on to be massive. It's probably the biggest mass participation ultra in the world. It stops the whole country. Just a huge amount. I know you know a lot about it, Markus, and you said you lived on the course or something, if I remember correctly. You've seen it go by. You know how amazing it is. And what I'm going to say is 89K, this is not flat, and the winning times are outrageous. So I'm going to do it one day. I previously had dreams of a bronze medal, like under 8 hours or whatever it is, when I was quick. Now I just have dreams of doing it.
Yeah, just to really highlight a few more points you just said, the up route is 1,500 meters of elevation gain, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, 1,750 meters of elevation gain. So it has to be a very strategic race, because you have the elevation release at the beginning of the race when you get out of Durban into the hills of that province, and then at the end you kind of really run into Pietermaritzburg, which is more flat. So it's got an elevation, and the winning time was 5 hours and 25 minutes. That is incredible. And I also want to say the second, he only came 45 seconds in after the first one. So, how tight is that after 89 kilometers with that route, to just have a gap of 45 seconds between the first and the second? Very incredible, I think. And actually the winner this year, Piet, the Dutch guy, came in second last year. He was only 3 seconds behind the winner, right? So it's a very tight race, an amazing, strong starting field coming to this race every year. And yeah, impressive.
If you talk to, so couple of points. If you talk to anybody who does it, the start line is meant to be amazing. They play this amazing tune, the cockerel crows, it's just meant to be amazing. It really is bucket list type stuff, right? I have a book signed by a man called Bruce Fordyce. Markus, I'm sure you know the name Bruce Fordyce, the guy who's won it 8-9 years in a row. A friend of mine was at a book signing, got a book signing. We're going to talk about business, all right? I previously mentioned a guy called William Googe. William Googe is an ultra runner, model, influencer on Instagram. He was on the Rich Roll podcast. He's run across America. He now lives in the UAE. He's cool, ripped, fashionable, and runs a long way. And he was streaming from the Comrades, and he did a lot of content. Really interesting to see what was probably quite a gritty race commemorating, fallen in the battle, is now being used by some cool influencer to be and it was cool content, man. I won't lie. It was good content. So it was interesting how you can consume it. You can consume race content, but it was this fashion ultra blogger going on. So yeah, it was interesting. Different ways and he's making a business. Let's be clear. He promotes on his channel. He's making a business out of being an influencer and running, and he was at Comrades.
Wow. Amazing. All right, moving on to the next story of the weekend. It's Kilian trying to be a poet and a writer. I don't think he comes close to you right now, Ned. He's basically talking about what it takes to be an older runner now. I think he has realized that Sigma was tougher than usual. And he's basically writing down a few thoughts on what it takes to be an older runner. But before we go there and share the story, I thought, why don't we ask the older gentleman on the show, you, Ned, what you think you have learned by being an older runner first, and then we can dig into Kilian. So what are your few thoughts on how to stay a stronger, more aging runner?
Wow. Okay, that's another show on itself. I'm pausing.
I got you here. That isn't a surprise to you. You did not think about this question beforehand, huh?
But I have been thinking in general. You know, Markus, and I don't, not everybody knows because not everybody cares about my life. But I went through a business meltdown, and it was hard, right? And I had this huge belief. I've loved running forever, but it was particularly important to me during times when stress was high. I feel so much of a better runner today than I ever have. I understand physically that I'm slower. I get it. I was never fast, but I was like an 18-minute 5K guy, which is nothing, but it's not zero, but it's nothing. I used to laugh at people who couldn't run a 25-minute 5K. I just couldn't quite understand how their bodies were so slow, right? Now I could barely achieve that. So empirically, physically, I am an older, slower runner. The feeling, the joy, and I also mean physically, because I'm not trying to run fast anymore. I'm running 6:37s, but as people know, I run a long way. My body and mind together feel so much better. Maybe, okay, this is the summary. As an older runner, I feel my mind has finally caught up to my body. My acceptance of my abilities is much more in sync with each other. I've lost a lot of ego. Of course, I still want to win, right? But I've found that I don't have aches and pains. I'm quite lucky. So just a bit of history, Markus. My granddad was the army champion in all of Britain over 800 meters and over a mile. He carried on running until his death. My dad is still running at 88, 89. Biomechanically, it appears that I don't get injured too much, touch wood. But as an older runner, I think the appreciation I have found and the advice I would give is get your mind in tune with your body. And I don't feel any age, man. Like, I don't feel it at all. Not even one tiny little bit. So my advice to older runners is don't worry about your body. Sort your head out and your body will be fine.
Very wise words. I fully agree, even though I'm not that old yet. But I think even now, having turned 36 recently and having been a track athlete where you're super fast and everything, it's the mind is the most important part, and it really determines everything else. Switching to Kilian. So again, we're going to put in the show notes, but he wrote an article called Racing the Time. And I'm going to give me a few minutes. I'm going to summarize it briefly. He basically saying, that of course with age, muscle mass decreases, bone density diminishes, and lung capacity deteriorates, and so on and so on. So that he is, he's about to turn 40, and he is now reflecting a bit more on how to stay fit and sustain high performance over the long term, getting older as well. And he points out a few key things that he believes are his way to success. The first one is consistency, right? This means not resting on your laurels once you reached a certain level and continue to challenge yourself. Like, so he, if you follow him on Strava, I believe he's always every day out there doing something. So I think he's very consistent in his training. Second one is his training load management is crucial. So he talks a lot about training load, how to adapt to the training load and, of course, avoid injury, which I think you, Ned, for some reason are super lucky that you don't get injured. It's you have that biochemistry, that physical endurance built into you. Seems like your parents and your grandparents have had that. But I also know that, Kilian also was injured, so I think he's getting more aware of that as well. he talks about stress management, right? So it's with career, social, and family lives have to adopt together, which I do think is probably partly mental. What you talk about, right? Stress is all in your mind and how you manage stress. He really talks about that the stress part. And lastly, it's his intrinsic motivation, right, to endure lifestyle challenges such as pain, fatigue, building back from injuries, and so on. Yep, that was Kilian's summary. We should get him on the show to really squeeze more out of him there. I think those are very generic statements, but at least good that he's getting more aware of getting older. And I think we're going to see this more and more from all these more pro athletes who are turning 40, who are getting older and they all have been very vocal and very open in sharing. And like I think there's more coming.
I haven't read it. I didn't know. I will read it. It's going to be interesting to see how he is as a writer. As you guys know, I like words, and it's always interesting. Some people can naturally flow with words. I haven't read it, so I can't comment. His points are correct. Stress management, load, perception. But I thought it's such an intrinsic thing, how we feel about it, right? Like, do you get injured? Do you not? Do you have the motivations? I'll be interested in, we don't know Kilian. He doesn't feel like he does it for the money, right? Doesn't feel like it, but will he still keep running? Will he still? I assume so, right? He's grown up, but it'd be interesting to see his motivations as, he might win Sagama again and again, or he might win, but soon this is going to be too fast for him. The one undeniable with age, you cannot keep top level speed. So the one undeniable physicality is you just can't keep top level speed. That's just it. And these young kids coming across, Kilian will be out soon, and it'll be interesting to see how his ego. There wasn't if you're familiar with Mark Allen, Dave Scott. So the greats from Ironman, Mark Allen and Dave Scott were the two greats. They won it many times. Mark Allen became like a Zen Buddhist afterwards and went to spend time with Native American Indians and learned peace. Dave Scott became a degen, alcoholic, fell off the rails, and he described it as this. It was an amazing podcast. I listened. He said he won like 6 Ironman championships in a row, and then suddenly he didn't. And he said, I went from Superman to no man, and it was incredibly difficult. Because when I'm winning Ironman, everyone's like, oh my God, you're amazing. And then he was sat at home watching TV eating donuts, and no one cared. And he became a real estate agent.
Yeah.
He said that transition, and I'm using the generic term, Superman, Superwoman, superstar, to nothing, threw his life off totally. Took a long time to figure it out. So, will Kilian be happy, I imagine, in the Norway hills with Emily and his kids and running in the hills? I'm sure. But it's an adjustment, man. When everyone stares at you and says, you're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing.
I feel like right now there are 2 career paths in other sports, if you want to draw a comparison here. One of them, of course, is becoming a commentator, right? You're becoming a TV commentator or live stream commentator, whether it's in football, basketball, baseball, you name it, any kind of bigger sport, tennis, it doesn't matter. That's one way. And the other one, which I find interesting as well, becoming an investor, right? So quite a few of these athletes are joining a fund or starting their own fund. We're talking, of course, huge superstars like Steve Curry and Formula One drivers, Nick Rosberg and whatnot. They are all having now quite large funds. We're talking $50 to $100 million funds investing more into sports. So maybe Kilian, if ever you want to start a fund, Kilian, you know who to call. We do these kind of things here, and we're happy to talk. The K1 fund. Come on, Kilian, we can do it.
But if you think about it, again, transitioning towards business, you're right. Like some of the greats in American sports have been amazing investors. And not just athletes. What Snoop Dogg does, what a lot of people with influence do, right? Ashton Kutcher, Snoop Dogg, LeBron. I was going to say Michael Jordan, except when he makes money, he gambles it on the golf course at $1 million a shot. So different ways of getting rid of money from Mr. Jordan. But think about it, right? Which brand would say no to Kilian? Like, you just can't, right? If he had a fund, and Marcus, let's think about it. If he started a fund and he was looking for LPs. For people listening, LPs means limited partners, it means investors. And he was targeting up and coming endurance brands. And Kilian would put his name into it. And he ran a fund saying that the Kilian fund is a bit like, it would be like Sequoia in our world, which is the biggest fund. Surely, Markus, there's some opportunity there, right?
Yeah. You didn't get the joke. I was saying K1 fund, and we have a podcast called One More K. So there's kind of a.
Oh, look at me.
Yeah,
So
look at that. Anyway, it was a bit of a stretch here for you. Sorry. I mean, yeah. No, all good points. Let's see how that goes. But I think in general, it's going to be very interesting to see how these people who are starting to retire from racing soon, what they're going to do next. And I think we are living in this time of the sport has grown, and yeah, people will watch what they do for sure. It's not like anymore. I'd say right now, bouldering doesn't have the wide mass kind of attention at the moment, but trail running gets into this bigger mainstream attention. So quite interesting to see that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Now moving on to the business side, I think where I want to take it today is really digging into the lessons that you have learned from running that you have applied to business. And I also share some of mine. And I don't want to make it the kind of the off-the-shelf type easy comments. I want to really understand what has happened in running and in business, and what have been the key lessons for you that are transferable amongst those two, running and business. Okay. What's your first lesson?
Should we go one? I'll do one, you do one. I do one, you do one.
Yeah.
Okay. For everybody, forgive me for this. I'm just going to say it as it is. I don't think it's appropriate, but I don't care. You can just do more, people. Like my little rant. I'm like, you can work till midnight. So I ran a startup. I had to pitch people in America. It meant I would do calls at midnight or 1 a.m. And certain people who I work with said, well, that's too late. I want to be on the call at midnight. I'm like, what I learned from Ultra is you can work more. You can do more. I think, particularly in startup land, I listen to people. It's like, oh, I worked really hard. I contacted 10 investors. I'm like, you can contact 100. There's 1,000. Oh, yeah. I did 10 meetings this week. Why didn't you do 100? Oh, no, I don't know. So my little rant, one of my dear friends, a guy called Lars Jafanski, who is not a runner. Indeed, his legs work so not well, he can barely walk. He's a tech guy. And on his t-shirt, he lives in Vietnam, Markus. And on his t-shirt, he only wears one t-shirt. And forgive my language, man, I have to swear because otherwise it doesn't work. And he's a tech guy. And his t-shirt says, just work fucking harder. And I don't believe hard work always is the answer. But I have learned from Ultra that I can make one more call, I can do one more meeting, and I can do one extra bit and take that call at midnight. I think it's a really important lesson. I think most people don't do enough. That's my lesson.
And how do you reconcile that? Thank you. How do you reconcile that with also in Ultra, you would need to take a break. You can't run 100 miles every single hour. How do you reconcile that learning to take breaks and rest and have a good recovery into business? How do you recover in business?
I don't think during 100 miles you ever rest. While I stop at the 7-Eleven to get a juice, that's part of the process. Running 100 miles is an eating competition with some running on the side. I think, swinging into a 7-Eleven. When I ran that 100K, Markus, when I saw you, I did not sit down once that whole time. I never sat. Now, in the 100 miles, I did sit now and then, but the sit was a process of eating to keep going. I know this is probably a damaging mindset. So the reason I apologize for it is it's a damaging mindset. And I don't think it always served me well, Markus. I think oftentimes at Bamboo, I did do 100 meetings a week. And I don't think I took care of myself. And I don't know if it's always appropriate. And I'm not good at resting. I don't think I can reconcile it.
Okay. Wow. So I didn't actually mean, by the way, during 100 miles. I meant in between 100 miles. Not how do you recover? Because I do think that I look at the business world and at running as segments or blocks, whether it's a race or training, and you just got to put the work in. I agree with you to just keep going to get better, whether it's running. I mean, I love it about running since I'm a 13-year-old guy. You put in the fucking training and you get better next week. It's just so amazing. Same with business. You take one more meeting, you will get better for the next block. But also there is rest in between those blocks in running. There's a rest day, right? So I want to know, what does a rest day look like in your business?
It's a great question. Jesus, I've never thought about this. When I rest between running, I don't run. I don't run. Like I watch Netflix. I don't do anything else. I'm doing things that are not running. I sleep, I eat, and I think about running, but only happy thoughts. You never rest during business, startup wise, right? You never rest. I think that whole my 8 years bamboo experience was an 8-year ultra, Marcus. I do. I think it was. I don't think I ever rested for 1 second. Except, you know, the only time I rest, I really thought about this, was when I run. My only rest during business, because then I didn't think about business. I just ran. Particularly, and Marcus, that's why I have this addiction to 100Ks. You know, it's really hard. The further I go, the less, the further I run, the more rested I am from the realities of business.
Right.
Okay, your go.
Yeah, I'm gonna go and choose. These days it's very fashionable to say unpopular opinion, and then then comes opinion. I'm gonna say being alone is okay, because it is fairly popular opinion in business, especially in startup land, to have a co-founder, and you have to have a team, and you have to have everything around you. And if investors ask you, hey, like, who are your co-founders, and you say, oh, I'm a single founder, like, oh, well, that's not good. You have to have co-founders, blah, blah, blah. And I think I learned from running that, especially from my 100Ks and 70K races and training, I do enjoy really running by myself. So the 100K I did in northern Vietnam, I spent 85 kilometers running by myself, like the whole time. And I loved it. I was a lonely wolf in the mountains. I had the best time ever. I was chasing people in front of me. I saw the lights in the dark, and just chase them. And it's so satisfying. And I realized, oh my God, I'm actually a lonely wolf. Sometimes, not all the time, but in certain situations, I'm a lonely wolf, and it's okay. Because, when you start a company and you have this common narrative of where are your co-founders, you start to question yourself, oh, am I a bad founder? Is it a bad company? But I learned from running, no, actually, it's just me. And it's also okay for my company, in this case, Leca, to be a single founder. I mean, I'm the main shareholder of this whole company, as you know. And that's it, right? And it took me a long time to come to terms with this. But because it seems like it's me and I enjoy it, that's great. I have to, of course, say that in other times, like training, and I love training with people. Like we talked about track, being on the track together in a group. I freaking love it. Like being together in these certain blocks of training. I love it. And that's also with a company, if it's a brainstorming session, whether it's marketing or strategy, whatever it is, I love it to be with people. But if it also comes down to hard situations, it's okay to be alone. And I'm sure you had something similar in Bamboo, that at the end of the day, you are alone. Like you do the 100K alone. You do the business meeting, that session with another investor, that other meeting that no one else takes, you do it alone, right? And I think that's what it really was something that I learned from running.
That's a really good point, man. It's a really good point. You're right. Like, it's okay to run alone. It's okay to run a business alone. It's a great point.
Yeah.
That is true. We're learning things here. All righty.
Next one. Come on, Ned.
Next one. It's so when you go running, there is this, what I really like when I'm running is I don't do anything else when I'm running. I can't watch TV. Well, maybe one day I can with my glasses. I'm only focused on running. And my problem in business was lack of focus. I saw so many other shiny things to do, right? Like the singular focus of running is really unique because it's a physical activity. When I go run, I only run, right? I don't do anything else. I only run. And it's so amazing. And I think if I had that ability when I was running a business, and Marcus, we're not, we're talking about business quite specifically. We're not talking about people going to work 9 to 5 who don't like their jobs. We are talking quite specifically about running a business or being part of a smaller startup business. The biggest mistake I made, and the thing I should learn from running, is singular focus. Don't get distracted. So when you're running, I should only be running. When I'm running a business, there is one objective, and that
And
is
how do you
God.
plan to implement this now?
So by saying no to as many things as I can, Marcus. Coming out of my company, I have a range of opportunities. Right now, I'm running a little consult business where I'm helping people with sales. But because I've been quite open, because I post on LinkedIn, got a bunch of followers. A lot of the startups say, "Oh, Ned, can you help me with this? Ned, can you help me with that? What about this? What about that? Oh, we could do this and that." And because I like doing things, and because I'm a people pleaser, and I like saying yes, it's so much easier to say yes in the moment. But then that leaves you with a gazillion things to do, so you're not focused. So the challenge is to be tough in the moment and say no, to only do core focused things. You see, in running, I have a goal. I want to run. I've upgraded, by the way. I think I told you I want to run 48 yards a backyard. I've upgraded it to 50, and I'll tell you why in a minute. At the end, I'll tell you why. My singular focus this year is to run 50 backyard loops in the World Championships. All of my running goals is to that. So same with I'm going to tell you offline what my goal is, Marcus, because I don't want to put my business goal. I have a business goal. I would like to tell you, Marcus, you can keep me honest, but I don't want to put it out on the show. I'll tell you why afterwards. Have a very clear goal. I have it in business. It's a number. And I must say no to anything that doesn't allow me to achieve.
Just want to quickly go back to, I like that goal, and I will have a similar one coming up in 1 minute, but the focus part, which I think is very important. You and I have seems like a similar brain in running. It's amazing how to focus in business. It's almost ADHD-like, where things come your way and you jump on them, whether it's dopamine, all those little stimulations are great. The question for you is, in running, so in business, you have learned it now through, call it your heroic failure of bamboo. Did you also learn it in running at some point in the past where you learned, or you always had naturally the ability to focus during running?
I think running just always felt natural. I've never run one step that I haven't enjoyed. I've never run one step that I was thinking I wish I was doing something else. I've never been running and think, oh, I'm going to stop and do, I'm going to cut my run short and go and do something else. No, every step ever running has always felt fully focused and fully invested.
Yeah, saying no is important. I mean, even with running now, I think taking back your learning, saying no to running as well, the same way, like, you have to say no to certain foods or certain lifestyle choices. You have to say no, sometimes going out for another, whatever, clubbing, and because running is more important, right? So that's the same way. On my side, I think what you mentioned about having a very clear goal, I call it visualization. So the power of visualization is tremendous. And in running, it's actually fairly easy because you have almost, whether it's a mountain or whether it's a track or whether it's your trail or whatnot, and you can visualize the checkpoints, you can visualize the journey, you can visualize the goal. With business, I've been trying very hard as well. And I think it's something that I'm struggling, to be honest with you, how to do it the right way, because I can visualize a certain business path. In this case with Lecker, I had a business path to a certain route I want to take this business. I want to have certain type of revenue growth and company valuation, of course. It seems to work, but I can tell you before, as you might know, I ran my fintech fund in Singapore, and we had a very, very audacious, crazy high goal of what we want to raise, and it was too far away. It was too far away, and we didn't reach it, what we wanted to raise, how much money for the fund. And that call kind of, not for my co-founders, but me as a young guy, it really came back down on me. And this whole huge house of cards I built in my head crashed into my mind, and it was not a very happy time for sure. So that's where visualization also can backfire. And I think it's such a skill to visualize the right things, or whatever seems right in the moment, at least. Of course, it can change, but it's with running as well. If I say right now, I want to visualize winning UTMB, I mean, that's probably a bit of a stupid goal and I will not be able to reach it. But for me, it's easier to visualize my next 6 months or 12 months of running. More experience, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. But with business, I'm still trying to figure out where to find the right balance of visualization. Have you had any experience there?
Yeah, well, interesting. Well, look, good points, Marcus. And you're right. I think your point, if you have a goal like in the fintech fund and you want to raise, $10 billion and you're only at $1, you're like, well, that doesn't make sense. A lot of the time when I'm running, so I used to want to go to Kona, the World Championships of Ironman, and I've been there, and I used to visualize myself running on the course. When I was training, I visualized myself. This is going to make, I'm pretty sure Joshua Toe is not, well, actually he did listen. I bumped into the king of Singapore backyard the other day when I was out for a jog, a run, Joshua Toe. I absolutely adore Joshua, the most humble, wonderful man there is. He has a best of 72 yards, a backyard in Biggs, 51 in Singapore. I want to be the assist, or I want to be just me and Joshua. And as I was training yesterday, I visualized each yard. I visualized us fist bumping at the start, just the two of us, at the start of everyone else has dropped out. I know this is going to sound ridiculous. I visualized the other people dropping out. So if you're also on the backyard team and your name's not Joshua, that is correct. I visualized you dropping out before me. I don't mean that in a mean way. I'm just being realistic. But it is very unlikely. My best is 28 yards. Joshua's is 72. We're miles apart. But it's not impossible, right? So am I winning UTMB? No. So Marcus, yes, my experience is I find when I train, I spend a lot of my training time visualizing me achieving my goal. I do. And I try to make it possible, but highly unlikely. Certainly not achievable.
With Bamboo, what did you visualize and how did you feel about whether or not achieving that goal that you visualized?
I was young and dumb. Now I'm old and sensible. Marcus, the horrible, terrible, disgusting, silly word, man, kept I even had a sticker, Marcus, of a horse with a little horn on its head, and it had little pink wings, and I stuck it on my computer. How ridiculous is that? For people who don't know what I'm saying, there is a term in business called unicorn, which means it's $1 billion company. Yeah, man. A bit like your fintech fund, how much you wanted to raise. I just thought it would be a unicorn. And honestly, Marcus, I just thought I could manifest it. I thought I could just will it into existence with my energy. Yeah, that's what I thought, man.
What would you now do differently in terms of visualization for business now that you are really strong with your mind and body from running?
I'd also get rid of the ego. Like I don't need to.
But where is ego coming into play? Where can you have a non-ego visualization?
When you're not doing it for other people. I wanted a unicorn so other people would tell me, well done, Ned, you got a unicorn. I don't want a unicorn for myself. I need to visualize something that is I want for myself.
And how do you know that?
I don't. I'm just trying.
Okay. All right. Interesting. I think it comes down back to awareness, right? Because we had a conversation before. Running, if you're racing, you're ultimately competing against someone. So it's a competition, and it's about recognition. It's about competing. It's about that, right? So there is an element. Anyone that's going out there with someone, right, is competing and has somewhat of an ego around it. Whether you like it or not, putting yourself out there into a race, there must be some ego, right? So what is the right amount there?
It's hard to tell. It's a learning. I do feel at the grand old age of 57, I feel a little wiser. I'm sure I'm making lots of dumb mistakes all the time. And I'm sure when I'm 67, I'll think I was an idiot at 57. if you think, Markus, you're 36 or 37,
6.
36. Remember when you were like half your age, 18, you thought you were Superman, but when you look back at your 36-year-old self, thinks your 18-year-old self was probably a bit of an idiot, right? So right now, do you feel my last lesson, and it's what my drop is about, and it's what I posted on LinkedIn, is the acceptance of pain is incredibly important. I had a coach called Grant Giles, and he posted something that said, we've always been told what you can do is how much pain you can suffer. So the more pain you can suffer, the more you can do. And he reframed it and said, no, it's how much you can do while you're in pain. And it was a very powerful thing. And I posted, I got quite a lot of feedback. I suffered. When you're running a long way, it's how much running you can do while you're in pain. It's not how much pain you can handle. If you can accept the pain and focus on the task. And in business, I had a lot of great time at Bamboo, but I had some pain, some real pain. And I am using that now. And the pain has been, so I can accept a lot of pain now, Markus. I can. So what running teaches me is I haven't found the sides of how much pain I can handle. Like when backyard comes this year, like I'm really going to try hard to find the edges. And in business, I learned in running that I can handle way more pain, and it's okay. And it's what I can do while in pain. And the same at Bamboo, as Bamboo was going through its very difficult time, it was about what I could do while I was in pain, not how much of the pain I could handle. And that's a lesson I think is valuable for life as well, people. My little drop is about it. So that's the lesson. The more you run, the more you understand pain and make it part of you.
I don't want to stand in between this wisdom now and your job. That's a very delicate position to be in. So I feel not in the right position to share my last lesson, but it's connected to what you just said. I kind of call it being Zen in pain, and it's this being above the clouds, kind of, when you have certain monks who meditate while sitting on glass shards type things, where you take it and you continue doing it. And in running, you have so many issues, of course, doing your 100K or 100 miles, or even like your 5K run. It doesn't really matter how long you run, to be honest with you. You can always be pain, and you continue and you just know that it will be okay. So I think having that understanding of Zen and the world be okay and the world will not fall apart. With running, you can get stressed out quite easily if something goes wrong, whether it's nutrition or whether it's, I don't know, your flask breaks, I don't know, whatever it is, right? So many things, or shoe laces get up and whatever. I mean, and sometimes it's also good to DNF, but again, then it's about the next race, the next training block. And with business, I feel honestly, it's this times 10 most of the time. Like, you have more things going wrong all the time. Almost every single day. Like, every single day something goes wrong. Every single day something is wrong. Whether it's, in our case, product of nutrition, or whether it's before was investments we did, and you just can't control it. But yeah, I think with running, you just know that you're taking one more step, you already have made one more step forward, and then things look different. And I think was such an important lesson for running a business now. And there's also a benefit of getting older, I guess. You just become more relaxed and you have seen more. And yeah, that's kind of my lesson there.
That's a great point, man. You're right. Shit goes wrong every day in business, and you just learn it, right? And I think learning from as you say, one more K to be able to do more, it's a good thing.
One more K. Great wrap up to the title of this podcast. Just one more K. Alrighty, my friend. Thank you for this interesting lessons. I don't think actually I talked with you about this. It's also for me hearing it the first time. So I appreciate you sharing it openly, and I'm glad we had this little section now. And yeah, let's wrap it up with your job.
Okay. Thank you, Markus. That was fun. Feels like we could just sit on this show. As an idea, Markus, one time, why don't we just get into this and do like a 4-hour Joe Rogan long form? Because if you think about it, Markus, if we were given a couple of beers and said, sit here for 4 hours to talk running and business, I don't think either of us would have any problem talking for hours and hours about this. I think we could go with this for a long time.
I would love that. Let's do it. Let's aim for it. We do like episode 25 or something, like some kind of milestone. We can do that.
Let's do it. All right. This one is called Pain, inspired by Grant Giles. Grant, if you're listening, you're a legend, my friend, and I appreciate the lessons you teach me. Pain. What is it? Is it actually there? Or are you just thinking it? What if you didn't think? Would it go away? 90 miles in, 10 miles to go. What are you thinking? Are you thinking about the pain? But stop. Think. What gets you to the end? Thinking about pain or thinking about running? You know what it is, but I know it's hard to do. So how do we run and not think about the pain? Here is how we do it. We accept it. We accept it for what it is. It's not that it's not there. It is there, but accept it. Let it be there. Settle into it. Then focus on the task, because it's not how much pain you can handle. It's how much you can do while in pain. Stop. Think about that. I'll say it again. It's not how much pain you can handle. It's how much you can do while in pain. Reframe. Change your mind. When the pain comes, accept it. Let it be part of you. Move above it. Smile. Then carry on. Those 10 miles to go, you have to run. Let's focus on that task. It's so much more positive to have that mindset. Never feel the pain, never focus on the pain, or most importantly, don't waste your emotional energy on the pain. The task, only the running. What? Wait, is that the finish line? Yes. And the pain after the finish line, gone. What? It was only in my head all along? It's just a feeling? It wasn't there? So don't feel it and run. Get out there. Ned.
Thank you, Ned. This will be a good one. This is a good one. Thank you so much. I'm excited for you sharing with the world. On this note, wrapping it up, thank you for another episode. Thanks, guys, for listening. We have 22 episodes out there now. Please subscribe to our newsletter, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatnot, and share your stories with us of whether pain, not pain. We are keen to hear from you.
Lots of love, people. Thank you for joining. We'll see you next week.
Lots of love. Take care, guys.